Deep within Romania's Carpathian mountains, hidden by thick forests and jagged peaks, lies Blackthorn Hollow, a village cloaked in shadows and steeped in superstition. The air here is heavy with tales of dark curses and whispered warnings. It is said that centuries ago, a powerful witch named Ileana was accused of practicing forbidden magic. The villagers dragged her from her home, tied her to a stake, and set her ablaze. But as the flames consumed her, she cursed them all, vowing that her spirit would haunt the forest forever. Few dared to enter the woods surrounding Blackthorn Hollow. Those who did often returned mad, whispering about shadows that followed them or voices that called their name. Some never returned at all. Despite the warnings, Daniel, a young historian hungry for answers, arrived in Blackthorn Hollow to uncover the truth behind the legend. Daniel was a man of logic and reason. Folk tales were mere exaggerations, and curses belonged to the realm of fiction. He had heard about Ileana's grimoire, a powerful book of spells that could rewrite history, and was determined to find it. This, he believed, would be the discovery that made his career. The villagers, however, were less enthusiastic about his plans. At the tavern on his first night, he was met with icy stares and murmured warnings. An elderly woman approached him, her voice trembling as she clutched his arm. "Do not go into the forest," she said. "The witch watches. She waits." Undeterred, Daniel prepared his gear, a flashlight, camera, notebook, and provisions, and set out at dusk. The forest loomed ahead, the trees casting long shadows as the last rays of sunlight disappeared. The air was still, the silence broken only by the crunch of leaves beneath his boots. The deeper he ventured, the more unnatural the forest became. The trees were twisted, their branches clawing at the sky. Strange symbols were carved into their trunks, ancient runes that seemed to pulse faintly in the dim light. Dolls made of sticks and cloth hung from the branches, their eyeless faces turned toward him as if watching. The atmosphere grew heavier, the silence oppressive. Occasionally, Daniel thought he heard faint whispers, like a breeze carrying voices from far away. He shook it off as his imagination and pressed forward. Hours later, Daniel stumbled into a clearing. In its center stood a dilapidated cabin, its roof sagging and its walls scorched black. The air around it was colder, carrying a faint, acrid smell of burned wood. The whispers grew louder as he approached, now distinct words. "Turn back, leave." Daniel hesitated, but steeled himself. Pushing open the door, he entered the cabin. Inside, the air was thick and heavy, the dim light from his flashlight casting long shadows. The room was cluttered with remnants of the past, broken furniture, shattered jars filled with unidentifiable substances, and an overturned cauldron. In the corner of the room, Daniel saw it, a large leather-bound book covered in strange symbols that seemed to writhe and shift under his gaze. The grimoire of Ileana. As he touched the book, a sudden gust of wind blew through the cabin, extinguishing his flashlight. Darkness enveloped him, and the whispers became a cacophony surrounding him. Fumbling to relight his flashlight, he noticed movement in the corner of the room, a shadow that flickered and grew. As he touched the book, a sudden gust of wind blew through the cabin, extinguishing his flashlight. Darkness enveloped him, and the whispers became a cacophony surrounding him. Fumbling to relight his flashlight, he noticed movement in the corner of the room, a shadow that flickered and grew. When the beam returned, it illuminated a figure. A woman stood before him, her face pale and hollow, her eyes like black voids. Her hair hung in tangled strands, and her burned, tattered dress clung to her skeletal frame. "You seek what is mine," she hissed, her voice echoing like the rustling of leaves in the wind. "You do not belong here." Daniel stumbled back, clutching the grimoire. The witch raised her arm, and the room began to shift. The walls twisted as if alive, the floor cracked, and blackened roots emerged, writhing toward him. Shadows danced along the edges of his vision, and the whispers morphed into screams. Panicked, Daniel bolted out of the cabin. The forest greeted him with an eerie, oppressive silence, but it was no longer the same. The path he had taken was gone, replaced by a dense thicket of blackthorn trees. Their branches seemed to move, reaching for him. He could feel her presence everywhere, behind him, beside him, inside his mind. The whispers returned, louder and more insistent. "You cannot escape. This is her domain." Daniel ran blindly, the beam of his flashlight swinging wildly. His breaths came in ragged gasps, and his heart thundered in his chest. He tripped and fell into a shallow pit, the impact jarring his senses. As he struggled to his feet, he realized the ground was littered with bones, human bones. The air grew colder, and the whispers stopped. A deep, guttural laugh filled the clearing, and Daniel looked up to see the witch standing above him, her form more monstrous than before. Her hollow eyes burned with rage, and her skeletal hands reached toward him. "This is your fate," she said, her voice like the grinding of stone. "You will join them." Shadows erupted from the ground, clawing at Daniel. He screamed, fighting to free himself, but their grip was unyielding. The symbols on the trees glowed faintly, pulsating like a heartbeat. In his desperation, Daniel remembered the grimoire. Fumbling through his bag, he found his notebook, where he had copied some of the symbols from the book. Trembling, he recited the incantation aloud. The shadows recoiled, and the witch let out a piercing scream. The forest seemed to convulse, the trees shuddering, and the air growing thick with ash. A blinding light erupted from the grimoire, and Daniel was thrown backward. When the light faded, the witch was gone. The whispers ceased, and the forest fell silent. But it was not a peaceful silence. It was the silence of something waiting. Daniel staggered back to the village at dawn, his clothes torn and his face pale. The villagers gathered around him, their expressions a mix of pity and fear. He tried to explain what had happened, but they only shook their heads. "You survived," the elderly woman said, "but she will not rest. The curse cannot be broken." Daniel left Blackthorn Hollow, but he was never the same. At night, he hears the whispers again, faint but insistent. Shadows seem to follow him wherever he goes, and he knows the witch is not done with him. The grimoire was lost in the chaos, but he is certain it remains in the forest, waiting for the next foolhardy soul to seek its secrets. Would you dare venture into the cursed woods of Blackthorn Hollow? What would you do if you came face to face with a witch's wrath? Share your thoughts in the comments below. For more tales of mystery and terror, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, beware of the shadows and whatever might be lurking in them.